What's this movie saying at the end when both and go down to the same fate? Is it saying like it doesn't matter what kind of person you are? Is this Final Destination 8? Death was always coming for Was he on an airplane that was supposed to go down and he survived?
Could be. I read it as everyone has to pay for their sins.
What does do?
We don't know what did.
No, it's not up to some random drive-by to give you your punishment. That's up to God.
I think that's the point of the movie, is the streets supersede it all, right? The streets are its own religion.
The streets is the OP religion in this scenario.
I mean, that's kind of what the Hughes brothers are telling us throughout this movie, right? The streets are alive. They dictate what's happening in your life. And as much as you want to get out of them, you are shackled to them. There is no escape. Even if you want to, even if you plan to, even if you confess your sins and redeem yourself, the streets do not care about that. They play by their own rules and they come for you. And everybody's going to eventually pay the piper in some way, shape, or form. We have a lot of characters through the movie who did not deserve, like the Korean owners at the beginning.
Maybe they were super racist, Nick.
They could have been racist.
You said we didn't see what did off screen. We don't know what those guys did off screen.
Hurry up and buy.
I don't want any trouble. Let's get out.
Stand, John.
I feel sorry for your mother.
What you say about my mama? You feel sorry for who? Every time I come in this motherfucker, you got something to say.
Hey, break yourself, fools. It's Just Play It. We're back in the hood, and we're ready to roll up on you with some corn dogs and some popcorns. Yeah, you thought we were going to do some active violence on you? No, we're here to share snacks because we're nice guys. I'm Captain Pop. I'm Jimmy Crack Corn. My name is James, and I'm with my A1 Day One, my homie, my ride or die. He is riding shotgun with that shotgun. We're going to pull some ski mask over our heads and go eat some burgers and make friends with people because that's what we do. Nick, the corn dog, welcome in. Come on in. Let's go, baby.
Thank you, my friend. As always, coming at you with you, my best friend, my host, coming at you live, battered and fried. I am the corn dog. And James, we like to call ourselves this all the time, but in this episode, we truly get to be it. We are going to be menaces to the Just Play It Society.
That's right. We're ready to bring it to you guys. So I hope you're ready to bring it too, and you're strapped and ready to just laugh your ass off, honestly, because that's how funny we are. Nick, the movie we had the pleasure of watching and reviewing this time was 1993's Menace to Society. It's got this little Roman numeral 2 in there as the 2, so it's not a sequel.
It always threw me off.
I've seen online some people thought that this was the sequel to the parody Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. So I can see that because it does have the number 2 in there. But once you start watching that, you're going to think, okay, completely different movies here.
It does throw you off a little bit because I was like, when I was first saw this movie, I was like, I can't watch Menace to Society because I never watched whatever the hell the first one was. And I never saw first one.
Menace I Society.
So I never bothered watching this one. So this is a bona fide first watch for your boy because I don't like watching sequels without watching the first.
Hey, what is this? Leonard Part 6? No, it's not. But yeah, no, same with me, buddy. Same with me. This is a first watch for me. I knew about this movie. I knew its existence, and I knew clips and quotes from this movie. But I was happy to finally watch this, and what better way to bring it into my life than reviewing it for the best podcast ever. Nick, this movie is directed by the Hughes brothers, Albert and Alan Hughes. They are known for this movie. They're known for Dead Presidents, and also a personal favorite of mine, maybe you as well, The Book of Eli. What a banger from the early 2010s.
Absolutely. Fantastic movie. Always loved it. I saw it a handful of times in theaters when it came out. And I got to say, that's like a movie that you just forget about. And I haven't watched that in like over 5 years. And after this podcast, I'm definitely going to need to go watch that. So
Albert and Alan, they do collaborate at some points in their careers, but they also direct separately. But this is one of their collaboration projects. They are also going to collab with screenwriter Tiger Williams. And this fool, he's got 4 writing credits only on IMDb. So there's Menace to Society as his first one, and then there's no credits since 1993 up until 2015's The Perfect Guy. And then he had a staff writing credit in 2010. And finally, he became a story editor for seasons 4 and 5 of Snowfall. That kind of is right in line with the genre. I mean, it's similar because it takes place in South Central Los Angeles. Do you know about Snowfall?
I don't.
Oh, it's on FX and Hulu. I think it's about the start of the crack epidemic in Los Angeles in the 80s.
Then yeah, that'd be right up the alley here.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Up the alley, not the genre.
Gotcha.
It's right up the alley of Menace to Society. Because this is an inner city story. It takes place in South Central Los Angeles, so Snowfall makes sense. The other, the Perfect Guy, I don't know. I couldn't tell if it was a romantic comedy or like a Fatal Attraction romance thriller. Honestly, from the tagline,
Yes,
it was like love one man, fear another, and I was like, what's going on here? Glenn Close,
stay out of here, Glenn.
Nick. In this movie, we have newcomer at the time, Tyron Turner. Friend of the show, Lorenz Tate. We just saw him in Crash. He played Peter. And also we got Vontae Sweet and Jada Pinkett. Back when she was just Jada Pinkett. But we know her as Jada Pinkett Smith now.
Jada Pinkett, keep my wife's name out your damn mouth, Smith.
Slap. There's a lot of cameos in this movie. A lot of hip-hop artists. I'm going to quiz you later. But
you can quiz me. I'll get them all wrong. But yeah, this is very. I was watching it and I thought I really like these movies. Just spoiler, very much in the vein of a New Jack City, very much in the vein of a Juice, a little bit in the vein of like I hate to say it, Bullet, but like that gritty street level crime. Yeah, I know. I felt bad saying Juice. I had to say 3, right? Things come in 3s. But really Juice, really New Jack City.
Dare bring a Bullet.
You keep Bullet's name out your damn mouth. So yeah.
Well, this movie, speaking of Juice and Bullet, it is Tupac affiliated, and I'll get into that when I touch upon the backstory. But Nick, why don't you let the audience know what the dollar signs are for this bad boy?
Let's do it. So yeah, estimated budget of $3.5 million, and I want to say that's fairly similar to the similar genres we just talked about of like a Juice, where you kind of got the gritty urban street drama. Studios weren't throwing a ton of money, but enough money to really make something happen, and they really got their return there. So on that $3.5 million budget, they ended up with a $27.9 million box office. So you're making 8-9 times your money. You got to feel really good about that.
You're super happy about that. That's good. Hey, good for this movie. Albert and Alan at the time were super newcomers to that. So what a way to start out your career in the feature-length films. Nick, before I get into the backstory of it, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to ask for your pre-pop score now because the fans want to know.
Oh,
what
they're clamoring.
Do you think? They're clamoring for this one. We've been just jawing about Bullet and all this bullshit. No one wants to hear that crap.
Bullet shit, dude. I'm telling you.
Bullet shit. We got to get into it. So, Nick, if you have your pre-pop score ready, which for the audience, for the listeners, for the newcomers, speaking of, that is our gut reaction score, hot off the press score. What kind of kernel did this pop in our hearts? Is it a fluffy, crunchy boy, or is it a burnt kernel, or somewhere in between?
One way to find out.
Nick, if you have your pre-pop score ready, we can reveal to the crowd on 3. 1, 2, 3. Show it to me. Nick, I see you have Menace to Society at 8.3.
And James, I see you sitting there at a 7.3. I thought you were going to be a little higher than me.
I didn't know where I was going to land. It's like up my alley, speaking of. I love these West Coast gangster movies, these inner city movies. I thought this movie was very cool and very watchable, but I felt like we might need to talk about the message, and maybe once we explore and bounce ideas off each other, then maybe my score will go up, or maybe your score will go down. but this was like an 8-ish in my mind, but I was like, I'm not there mentally. So maybe after we talk, maybe I'll get there, but tell me your thoughts. Why are you slapping this with an 8.3 off the Rizip?
So I'm really trying to get back to the roots here on the podcast. And we used to have we do have a scale for what these points represent, right? And so on our scale, an 8 is a movie popcorn. It's a shared bag, and it's just a good movie that you sit down and watch and you're captivated by. And we talk about it on this podcast, the phone test, right? Where when you're watching this movie, do you pull out your phone? Are you ever bored? And I thought that the storyline was compelling enough where if I was sitting in a theater and I had a bag of popcorn, my eyes are glued to the screen and my hands are just going in the bag, feeding myself because I'm enjoying myself and the movie's progressing and the stories are there and the characters are there. And I thought the message, we'll talk about whether we agree with the message or if the message was good, but it definitely had a consistent message. And I'll always respect a movie for that, whether I like the message or not. Was your message consistent throughout the film? So yeah, we'll definitely get into that, but that's where I sat with the 8.3 there.
Okay. So Nick, you're giving this a movie popcorn, a shared bag version of that. And I am giving this a microwave popcorn. We'll see how we navigate that, but there's more to scores than just watchability, little old Nick. So we'll have to talk about everything from the writing, from the acting, from the cinematography to editing. We'll have to get into all of that. Before we do, I want to hit you with some development backstory. So, I love to deep dive the making ofs, and I love when there's a 20-minute making of video on YouTube when they just kind of summarize a bunch of stuff for me. So, one of the main questions I have is always why, how, why did this get made? I'll share it with you. I'll share it with the crowd. So the Hughes brothers, they made this movie, according to them, to provide context to white people of why and how inner city youth behave and live the way they do. Albert Hughes says that their inspiration to get into filmmaking was those popcorn movies like you were talking about, Nick, like movies like Superman and Indiana Jones, and their motivation to pursue gangster films because they knew it could be done right and it could be influential would be movies like Scarface and Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. So they got some good menu items of why they're getting into this. And let's see how they got into this. So producer Darren Scott, he had a New Line Cinema project that fell apart, and then he went on to produce a music video for Tupac titled Brenda's Got a Baby. So this video was directed by the Hughes brothers. They did a lot of hip-hop music video directing gigs before they got into movies. And I feel like this is not the first time I'm saying this. I'm recalling this with Fantastic Four's Tim Story. I know he did a lot of music videos, and I feel like that's just like a path to feature-length directing is through the music video route. So Hughes brothers, they did a lot of hip-hop music videos. And then so they expressed interest to Darren Scott of what they ultimately want to do. He's saying, do you want to keep doing music videos? And they say, no, we want to get into movies. So they start chopping it up. And then they tell Darren, yo, like we're working on some. We're actually collaborating with one of our homies, Tiger Williams, on the script. We're developing it right now. Ryan Williams, who plays Stacy in this movie, he was a good friend of the Hughes brothers growing up, and they were talking about making movies. And then Ryan Williams offers up his brother, Tiger Williams, who ends up being the screenwriter for this movie. He says, yo, my brother can write. So according to Ryan, he hooked it up for everybody. Tiger, Hughes brothers, they're developing the script called Menace II Society. And so they hand it off to Darren Scott, and Darren Scott is shocked, quote unquote, when he read it. So he's like, this is crazy. I got to give it to New Line. So Robert Shea, who founded New Line Cinema in 1967, got a hold of the script. And when Darren Scott asked what the response was, they said, old Bob cried at this script. So your founder of your production company is all in, and we got a movie. And it's happening. Hell yeah. And it happens just like that, Nick. Why couldn't I be this lucky? How do I direct a hip hop music video? How?
You got to get into the music video game, dude.
Ow.
That's the only answer. Do it.
Albert Hughes, he says that he said that he wouldn't say it out loud back then, but after the fact, he feels comfortable saying this. He thinks that New Line Cinema greenlit this and took a chance on some 20-something-year-olds to be at the helm of this movie because of Boys in the Hood. Well, he was thinking Boys in the Hood had a huge impact, and it kind of gave studios a little bit more open-mindedness to these kind of movies. The Hughes brothers were 20 years old at this point.
That's crazy.
Younger than John Singleton when he made Boys in the Hood, because we talked about multiple times on different podcasts that he was 23, 24 when he made that. Youngest Academy Award nominated director, still holds that record. But yeah, Hughes brothers are 20 years old. It is wild.
That's insane.
Makes me feel great about myself. This was not meant to be a boys redo by any means. Tiger Williams stated that Menace to Society is more so the antithesis to Boys, because Boys in the Hood is a story about a kid making it out of the hood, but Menace explores the similar kind of story of why so many kids don't make it out of the hood. So, disclaimer, we got to throw this out here. Nick, I found this out recently. You have not seen Boys in the Hood. I have not seen Boys in the Hood either. So I feel like we just got to add it to our list of movies to watch. There. It'll be a good reason to watch it. And yeah, so the good thing is that we can't make any comparisons to it. But I thought this was kind of similar just based on like clips and things that I know about both movies very vaguely before watching this one. But hearing that, it is nice to hear that it is different in a not a small way, but a single way that is very drastic, apparently.
Almost an intentional way.
Maybe, not seeing Boys, maybe it was supposed to be like a you got a chance, kid kind of movie. And then this one's like, nah, this is how it is. And it's like, oh, yeah, shock value, So on topic of being the antithesis, after watching Menace to Society, that statement rings true a lot, because on our Poetic Justice podcast, we discussed how Singleton was singled out for misrepresenting the female characters in Boys to the Hood, calling them barriers, challenges for the male characters. And Menace to Society does have that opposite effect, because Jada Pinkett's character is definitely a positive as far as representation and like a redeemable character, a good character. So it's funny to hear that, because when we talked about Poetic Justice earlier, we knew that was an issue. And apparently that was the whole reason why he made Poetic Justice, which was another issue we had with the film. Like, don't go out of your way to make a movie just to prove someone wrong.
Never do it.
Especially if it's just one person.
Never do it.
Let's get to the actors here. Tyron Turner, Hughes brothers. They cast this guy after seeing him in an episode of, get this, Nick, John Walsh's America's Most Wanted. He was an actor in a reenactment of a crime. And the Hughes brothers thought, this kid sounds like he's from the hood. Let's go get him. And they took a chance on this just like raw, fresh rookie talent. And I think it paid off. I think he did pretty good in this movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
O-Dog. This is going to be Lorenz Tate's character. He originally was supposed to be a large, buff, scarred up guy. You could tell he kind of spent some time in juvie, and a real imposing badass, but they couldn't find anyone. So the Hughes brothers said, hey, casting director, let's get those reject tapes. And one of the first reject tapes they got was Lorenz Tate's. And Lorenz Tate, in his own words, he said, I had a bit of a Disney look at the time. I was a fresh young face, so I knew I had to bring it. And when they actually go out to these hoods and start shooting, a lot of the locals would be like, all right, like, what set are you from? Where are you from? What hood are you from? He's like, nah, man, I'm just an actor. But he just walked the walk and talked the talk so well. I thought he killed it in this one.
I think that actually played to his favor, because he played a character, don't want to do, but spoilers out there, but who seemed together, but then became so unhinged that really his whole draw to him was that he was so unpredictable, because he didn't have that stereotypical walk the walk, right? Or talk the talk. It was like a guy that could just snap at any moment, which is scarier than any tatted up, scarred up guy from prison, in my opinion.
Let's move over to MC8. So this is going to be our boy AWACS in the movie. So apparently one of the conditions New Line had to greenlight this project, they said, hey, you got to go get a platinum selling rapper because, you know, Tupac was in Juice and Ice Cube was in Boys in the Hood. And they're like, this is the formula. So we have to go do this. They grabbed MC8 to play AWACS, but according to MC8, they originally wanted MC Ren from NWA. And for whatever reason, Ren passed on the project. But we got MC8 to fill that role.
He did well.
Yeah, no, he's part of that culture, so it was all natural to him. It's kind of nice when you can bring in those guys, kind of like Ice, or when they brought in Ice-T on New Jack City. He was not an actor, and he was very, like, for me, like a lot of his scenes are very. It's a telltale sign that he was not an actor, an established actor at that time. He was still kind of a rookie and a little bit of a freshman. But when he got into like this flow of just street talk, it seemed a lot more natural. So it's nice when you could just kind of have a guy, don't make him your main guy, but have a guy who's from the streets and like can talk the talk and like just fits in and kind of brings some authenticity to the movie. That's always good. So you're going to need that authenticity when you're running up in the hood, Nick, because the hood runs itself. So when these big movie studios come in and the hood sees them coming, they're like, hold the fuck up. Who do you think you are? You're coming into our hood, shooting on our turf? We got something.
You're not that guy, pal.
It's one of those instances where a lot of the extras in those project scenes are people that actually live there, and they'll hire on like technical advisors, whether it's street lingo or straight up security. Because Darren Scott said there was one guy there that was the scariest in the entire area, and this guy was probably shitting his pants. And to diffuse the situation of how kind of like how you were saying how someone could like snap, and that's the scariest part. They offered him a job as the head of neighborhood security. And at the end of the project, he came up in tears and thanked them for the opportunity. So I'm just imagining Bob Sapp from The Longest Yard. Like, I broke it, did your toy.
Again, don't want spoilers, but it is kind of funny that this movie's all about, you know, oh, they don't have opportunities, but given opportunities, people can be good. And he took the scariest guy in the hood, gave him this responsibility and opportunity, and he was grateful and happy and appreciative of it. It's like, oh, you kind of just proved out your movie a little bit where like somebody give it a chance turns out to like take it and run with it. But hey, not giving anything away. We'll talk about it.
Speaking of all these rappers, speaking of the hood, I have to bring up Tupac. Nick, apparently there is a bunch of drama with this guy out here.
Oh, no.
So did you read up on any of this?
No, I came in pretty blind. I watched the movie twice and didn't do too much research on the film. So it hit me.
Strap in, dog. Okay. Tupac, he was originally supposed to play Sharif, who was a character in this movie. The fallout between Pac and Menace to Society can be attributed to the following accounts from the people who were there. Or I should say the people whose was there. So let's start out with MC8. So MC8, according to him, and so this is all their POV and their subjective opinion and memory of it. So things can get lost in memory. But MC8 quote, he said they didn't want him in the movie. Pac wanted to maintain his image of a bishop or a lucky on screen, and they gave him this righteous dude role, like a peacemaker, like, oh, we got to be looking out for each other, my guys, blah, blah, blah. Pac's biggest issue was that, hey, if I'm going to be the peacemaker or the righteous dude or like the monk or whatever, however you want to describe it, like you need to show the audience why Sharif turned to this specific religion. Why is he a Muslim? But they didn't want to do that. They said, that's not what this movie's about. We don't have time for that. Nick, you're hit me with a quizzical look. Hit me with your thoughts right now.
Like you said, you know, the drama might come, you know, memories fail you, and it sounds a little one-sided. What we know about Tupac and his acting chops and his creativity, and even how he was, we could say a little later in his life, about being, you know, more of a peacemaker and helping people in bad situations. This doesn't quite fit the bill, but also it a little bit does, because Tupac's a very creative guy that we know and we've talked about on this podcast before, who
He's also
I feel
not afraid of controversy. He's not afraid of conflict. He's not afraid of speaking his mind. Like, it's very well known that he's hyper intellectual and creative, but at the same time, he could just snap and then just like beat someone's ass. So,
but I definitely see, looking back on the movie, I could see his point of saying, hey, if I'm going to play this character, I need a little bit of depth here. I'm not just going to be some, oh, hey, this is who I am in the movie, and I'm just a face that you recognize. Like, I need to have a little depth. So it checks out. Actually, it does check out. Fully checks out.
I have two sides to that. So one, it's not your movie. So like, you don't have to provide notes. You don't have to provide your opinion. If this was a TV show, yeah, I think you can have 1 to 3 episodes exploring a character arc if we had more time with characters. But I get it's a production. Like, we have time restraints. We can't just draw out everything because we need to move on. So it's not about why is this person this way. This is a story about these characters or this overarching story. My flip flop is I love character development. So I would love to see that as well. But I understand for the studio side, they don't have time for that.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those scenarios where there really isn't a bad guy, but somebody has to be the bad guy in a scenario, right? Like, oh,
it is
Pac,
straight up whatever side you're on.
Yeah, but really, it sounds like the studio came to Pac, said, hey, we want you to play this character. Pac read the script, says, if I'm going to play this character, I need this. The studio says, we don't have time for that. And Pac said, well, then I'm not going to do it. And that's reasonable on all sides, right? That's not
what happened.
Okay.
Continue. I'll tell you. So I think it was maybe like an unwritten package deal, like an unwritten rule, like an unwritten understanding of Tupac saying, hey, like, I had you direct a couple of my songs and I kind of put you on, and now like you're going to put me in like your next movie or whatever. So then they're like, hey, like, you got to come and play this character. We want you to play this character. He's like, all right, well, I'm doing Poetic Justice right now, so hold on. I'm going to hang out with Janet Jackson. Who's going to pass that up, all right? When he finally gets onto the production, they said that he was continuously late for table reads and stuff, and this is not like oh my God, like a famous rapper was late to the meeting. Like, it's not out of the realm of believability. So I believe that. But another person said, I don't know if it was MC8 or someone else, but they said since they worked with Tupac a lot, they kind of knew his antics. Maybe they knew his tardiness. Maybe they knew his, like, I'm going to go off and like smoke weed or whatever it was. Maybe they're like, maybe we don't want to professionally work with him, and that's fine. We could still be homies, but maybe that's not what they want. So that was another suspicion that somebody had. I
could see a world too where you're working with younger guys, right? Like you said, you're working with,
that's the thing,
Lorenz Tate and Tyron Turner.
20-year-olds, and Tupac is what, 22, 21 at this point. They're all young 20-year-olds. They're all very hot-headed at this point. So that is also a part of the equation.
All hot-headed. Tupac is definitely more famous, and you're like, I don't want him rubbing off on these young kids because it's going to derail the whole production, right? Like, if he's in charge of the production, then the whole thing's about to spiral. So I could see that.
Speaking of, his status, Tyron Turner, the main actor in this movie, he said Tupac wasn't a superstar per se yet. So when he's bugging out table reads, Tyron Turner's like, who's this guy? Like, he's fucking up my chance to make it big. This is my first big break. You already did Juice and you already did whatever. So you've been in a couple movies and you're a rapper, but like, he's not Tupac yet. So He's like, look, this is my chance and you're being selfish. So let's go to Tyron Turner. I got this all from Vlad TV, by the way, YouTube channel, Vlad DJ TV. Vlad. I got some info on Spawn, because that's where I got my Michael Jai White interview polls from. This guy just knows hip hop and black actors and interviews them all the time. And it's like, this is exactly the question and answer I had. So this is great.
Thanks, Vlad.
Thanks, DJ Vlad. So he had Tyron Turner on the show. And according to Tyron Turner, like I said, at the table reads, in the middle of it, Tupac would just kind of disrupt it and say like, I can't get into this character. I can't get into this character. So then Tyron Turner says that Alan Hughes, he says, Tupac, this is quote, per Tyron, per Alan. He says, Tupac, you acting like a straight bitch right now. And so it's like, dang. Okay. But they were like, they knew each other. So that's just how they talked. It sounds really bad on paper, but that's just how they talk. So then they walked out the table read, and then Alan comes back in and then Tupac doesn't. And then Tyron Turner's like, that was the last time I saw Tupac on the production. This is going to segue into this crazy scuffle, I'll call it. It's a fight.
Okay.
You got something before I
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
I was going to say, like, it feels like one of those situations where you're an employee, you might be friends with your boss, and you and your boss have a relationship, and maybe it crosses some lines a little bit in front of people who don't have that relationship, right, in front of other employees. And so it's a weird situation, right?
You're just kind of sitting there like, what are we doing? Can we move on? Like, is this a...
And if you're the boss, if you're the Hughes brothers, you're sitting there trying to walk this line, tiptoe on ice around your boy. That just sounds like a mess. I'm just like envisioning all these scenarios in real life, in my life, where I'm like, oh yeah, I know something like that. That just sounds like a tragedy.
So Tupac is going to jump the Hughes brothers on a music video set. He's going to pull up with some guys and fight them. Yeah, you didn't see that coming. I'm hitting you with it right now.
Physical violence.
Physical violence. Let me just set that up right off the bat. So Spice One, Nick, he's a Bay Area rapper, and he has a song in this movie called Trigger Gots No Heart, and it ain't Trigger. So that's the song that's in this movie. And it's one of those, back in the time when the soundtrack was just as important as the film, and you're shooting the music video with the actors, and then you intercut cut scenes from the movies. So Spice One is good friends with Tupac. Tupac's there that day, and they're shooting this with Tyron Turner, and MC8 is there.
The whole crew.
So everyone from the movie, because MC8 knows Tupac, like all these rappers know like Tupac, and then he's like making a cameo in the music video. And it was it was after he got canned from the production. So per Tyron, they're shooting this music video for Trigger Gots No Heart. And Tupac pulls up, and he says he pulls up with 10 to 15 guys deep. And Tupac and the crew, they're kind of dapping people up. And then all of a sudden, like there's like a huge fight down the hill, and they see they're jumping Alan Hughes. So Alan Hughes is getting his ass beat, and apparently Albert is out. Albert Hughes he's out. He ran away. He's like, done. Fuck my brother.
That's a smart play, Albert.
So he runs away from the scene, leaves his brother behind to get beat up by Tupac and 10 dudes, apparently. So Tyron's he's trying to jump in, but then it's over before it started. He has quote to say, recalling what happened. This is Tyron quoting Tupac in that situation. He says, next time you fire an N-word, you fire them like a man. Skirt, skirt! Then they like skirt off in the cars, and then Alan's all fucked up. He's all bloody, like he got beat, got his ass beat.
Yeah.
And according to Tupac, he was just fighting them by himself. So he's like, it was 2v1, and then Albert ran away. I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. I feel like the 10 guys you were with probably did some damage on those guys.
A little bit.
That's just me. So all these like accounts that are happening. And then Spice One, the rapper that the music video was for, his take on it was that Tupac was angry that they could have just called him and said that they didn't want him in the movie. But apparently they put it in the newspaper, and then that's how he found out. So it all seems very weird to me. Basically, he was supposed to be in the movie. He had a lot to say about his character, and he didn't agree with it. And the Hughes brothers were like, yo, like, we know you. You're acting like a bitch right now. Like, this is not about you. It's about us. And then maybe he did get fired in a non-professional way, and it was a bitch move on the Hughes brothers' part. And then so he claps back physically, and then they sue him. So they go to court, and according to Tupac's brother, I'm blanking on his name. Tupac's brother, Mo Preem. That's it, baby. So Mo Preem Shakur, he also has his own accounts of how this all unfolded. He said that he dropped him off at those table reads, and the Hughes brothers were getting all mad at him because he was showing them late and whatever. So everyone has their own subjective opinion on it. And Mo Preem drives him to the court case, and he says that him, Pac, and Tupac's lawyer was Johnny Cochran, were at the courthouse.
How does Johnny Cochran always end up in this kind of shit? All right, keep going.
He's just in it, dog. So Johnny Cochran, Mo Preem, and Tupac walk into a courthouse, and he says, and the Hughes brothers are there, and we're all at the elevator, and it's just really awkward. And then Tupac's like, you bitch ass motherfuckers, I'll beat your ass again right here. And then Johnny's like, yeah, Tupac, like, no, we're at the court case of why this started. So Tupac keeps it super real. If he feels like he's wronged, he's going to act up. But basically, I think he had to spend a month in jail and pay a fine. But at the end of the day, it's all good, man. It's all good in the hood. Like they got respect for each other. It was just a thing. And he's like, I just did my thing. I reacted. Then we moved on, you know?
I feel like this really also speaks to the movie. Okay, continue.
In what way? No, that's it. That's all I got. Unless I had Spice One, MC8, Tyron Turner. No, I think I pretty much got it.
I feel like this speaks to the movie as far as just, this is the streets. This is just how it is. Like, you know how it is. This is just status quo. And this is how we handle things.
Tupac is a menace to society. He's a menace to the Hughes brothers.
he absolutely is. I mean, the Hughes brothers are basically saying a lot in this movie is, this is just the reality. This is the environment. This is why everybody stays trapped in it. And Tupac is sort of playing it out that way. So it's a little insight into, or maybe life imitating art, if you will.
Let's get into that art, Nick. I'm going to go ahead, read this log line, and let's jump into the plot, the meat and potatoes of this movie called Menace to Society. The log line is, a young street hustler attempts to escape the rigors and temptations of the ghetto in a quest for a better life.
In the ghetto. Yeah.
And we're going to explore those rigors and temptations in Plot Talk.
Plot Talk.
All right, James, the film, we're going to begin. We have Caine. This is our boy, Tyron Turner, aforementioned, and O-Dog, Lorenz Tate, friend of the show, aforementioned. And they're going to be entering a Korean-owned liquor store, and foreshadowing, maybe, the 1994 race riots in L.A. A lot of Korean-owned liquor stores were getting vandalized by black folks who were rioting after the Rodney King incident. So we have this. I know they didn't plan it this way, but this was very much the way it was, a lot in the hood there. And then after a tense exchange with the store owner, O-Dog brutally murders both the clerk and his wife. And Caine's there watching in shock.
Yeah, I mean, it is a shocking and brutal intro to the movie. And just to touch upon the riots real quick. Yeah, the 92, 93, I think it's 92. Rodney King riots. Those were like carryover frustrations from the 1965 Watts riots, which gets a little bit of a stock footage montage after this introductory cold open. Those were sparked by police brutality against Black Americans. So, yes, like you said, there was a lot of racial tension back in those times, early 90s, and in between Korean Americans or Korean immigrants and African Americans. You can cut the tension with a knife.
There's the footage, live footage of the Korean liquor store, convenience store owners on the roof of their stores with guns. I mean, I feel like we don't get that same sort of tension in real life parallels today. But if you're watching this movie in 1993, it's a very obvious parallel to everything that had been happening. And then that sort of tension, because there were Korean immigrants who were protecting their stores, who were firing shots. I mean, people died in the streets.
Oh yeah,
because of it. And so
34 people died in the 60s riots. Like 1,000 were injured, 4,000 were arrested. So that was a huge one. Then the 92 ones were crazy as well, for sure.
And some of these Korean immigrants, Korean Americans were killed just in the frenzy of it all. So like, yeah, the tension in this definitely in 1993 would have hit just at a really visceral level.
And there's big tension. There's big racial tension here. It's funny that Lorenz Tate is in this because, like, once again, speaking of Crash, I think this movie did a way better job of setting up racial tension without beating it over your head with, why are you in my store? Because you're black and I don't like you. It's like, why you hate us? Because we're black and you're Asian. It's like, I won't go on a tangent, but I'm just saying this 1993 movie does a way better job establishing racial tension and biases and conflict in everyday situations, as opposed to the Oscar award-winning movie.
Hey, won't you give my homeboy his change?
I don't want any trouble. Just get out.
Can't stand y'all.
Just the cinematography of a lot of these scenes, and not just racially, but even interpersonal tensions, is really. I think they do a really good job of it. You know, there doesn't have to be a lot spoken to know that there are people in this same space who hate each other, and you could feel it in a lot of these scenes.
So the store owners, they get murked by O-Dog in just a savage, just cold-blooded way. It is absolutely insane. But it is because they feel like they're being racially profiled because the store owner, and this is one of those parallels from Don't Be a Menace to Society or Don't Be a Menace to South Central.
You not to drink beer in store.
Hey, man, I'm going to pay you.
Hurry up and buy.
Hurry up and buy. Hurry up and buy. Hurry up and buy.
Because they recreate this whole exact scene. So I was kind of laughing as I was watching the scene. But then when O-Dog pops off a shot, it's like, oh, dang. Okay, this is not a comedy.
Although IMDb has it tagged as dark comedy. Take that with what you will.
That might be like a Wikipedia rogue guy just adding that on, because anybody can edit IMDb, you know. I'm not gonna go with that. But Nick, the store owner, is it's funny because when he gets murked, he says, I don't want any trouble. And then a few seconds later they're walking away, he's like, I feel sorry for your mother.
I don't want any trouble. I feel sorry for your mother.
And then it's like, why did you open your mouth? You obviously want trouble.
Koreans stand on business, dude. Koreans stand on business, my guy.
And then he turns around, he's like, what'd you say about my mama?
What you say about my mama?
And he's like, I don't want any trouble. It's like, obviously you do. Because you opened your trap, dog.
You feel sorry for who?
I don't want any trouble. Just get out.
If you're going to talk like a big dog, you got to act like a big dog here.
Back it up. You better be strapped, man. No, he gets gunned down. And this was messed up to me because O-Dog brings the I'm assuming it's his wife, the store owner's wife, brings her to the back and then guns her down. We don't see it, but we hear it. And I'm just here thinking like, wow, that was messed up. But RIP to a friend of the show, Nick. Welcome back, June Kyoto Liu. She played the White Tiger in Big Trouble in Little China. Remember her? No, you don't.
What?
You know what I'm talking about?
Hell
You know what I'm
yeah.
talking about in Big Trouble?
I do. Okay, so
Wait, who is she? I'm gonna quiz you.
no, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying like we're in that age of cinema where it's like you only have a handful of Asian actors, and they get thrown around into all these casting calls.
She's Korean in this one. She's Chinese in Big Trouble in Little China. But in that movie, she works at the brothel that what's his name? Jack Burton goes into, and he's undercover in like that brown suit. And then so she's the one that kind of tips off the big bad in that movie. So yeah, friend of the show. I didn't realize that until after the fact research. But
Wow.
I know. But she's dead in this movie. And then we get our Watts riots stock footage montage, kind of sets up our movie, and then we're going to transition into a flashback sequence here, Nick, with a very famous actor.
Some might say the most famous actor out there today, at least top 5. And so in these flashbacks, we have our young Caine, our little 5-year-old Caine, I think, or 10-year-old, I think he was credited with. In the credits, there's 10-year-old Caine.
I think, is it 10-year? I think he's 5-year-old Caine.
He is 5-year-old Caine. I thought why did I switch and go to 10?
Well, my note may have thrown you off because I was looking at young Caine and I was like, I feel like I know this little kid. This actor is named Brandon Hammond, and he played a 5-year-old Caine in this movie. And 5 years later, he plays the 10-year-old version of Michael Jordan in Space Jam in that opening flashback.
I believe. Yeah.
Yep. I was like,
gotcha.
That's where I've seen you before. So in this flashback, we get introduced to his parents. Nick, who's the Faja?
Our Faja is none other than Samuel L. Jackson.
He gets a couple good motherfuckers in this scene. It's pretty great. You owe me some money, motherfucker.
We wouldn't be Samuel L. Jackson if he didn't toss some of those out. So we see him shoot a man over a drug deal. And we also find out, see Caine's mom dying from heroin. So he has had a rough...
She doesn't die yet. I should add that. I don't know if that was in the director's cut, but she does. It is specifically mentioned that she dies later. But
Gotcha.
She's struggling.
She's overdosing. I mean, she's strung out. She's basically an absent mother, from the heroin usage. So Right off the bat, I just want to throw out, we get introduced to O-Dog right off the bat, and O-Dog's going to be what I'll call our irredeemable character, right? He is part of the streets. He is murdering a store clerk. He is then going to shoot his wife in cold blood. And we do. It's actually pretty well pronounced that Caine is kind of in shock, right? He is not part of this whole street life. Death is just another day mentality, where O-Dog is already so far down this path that we see, okay, this guy's a problem, and he has consumed the juice, James. He is so juiced up that there's nothing left of this guy.
Yeah, this could be the sequel to Juice, and it got to the West Coast and O-Dog sipping on it. I'd say, he's completely lost with the concept of death and consequences. Caine is definitely a lot more questionable because it's a big question that comes up in this movie a whole lot, and Caine gets kind of just thrown that question every now and then of like his view on death and like, is your life worth anything? So that's a huge motif in this movie. In that opening scene, it seems like, it is a big deal and it's shocking. And then later down the line, he's like, I'll kill somebody. It's all good. And then he does. So it's a whole moral that we have to explore with Caine. And we see how that cloudy, what would be the word, philosophy on the treatment of death and the respect for death and respect for your own life and other people's lives, that's going to get tested throughout this movie. But we do see how that cloudy philosophy is established in these flashbacks because he's seeing his parents do it. He's hanging out with some unks out on the back porch, and they're like cussing in front of him and giving him the gun. It's like, here's a gun, here's how you shoot it. And it's like, oh man, this sucks. Because around here, like, I mean, you grew up here too. Like, I describe our town as sneaky ghetto. Like, it appears like it's very nice and pleasant, but there's a lot of shit that happens, and there's a lot of little shits out here. And there's a lot of 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds riding around on bikes, riding around their cousins' cars. They have guns on their person. It's like, how did you become like this? And it makes sense because you're brought up by bad influences on your life. And the whole intro of the Watts riots was to set up, why is this area like this? They felt like they were living in like a detained area or just like a heavily policed area. And like, they were just like enclosed and they felt trapped. And then those riots, they just like snapped because they were tired of all the police brutality. And then after all that shit went down, they're like, all right, well, if it's not going to make it easier for us, we're going to make it easy for us. We're going to like get into drugs. We're going to get into this. We're going to like, if you're not going to make it easy, like, I have to do it my own way. And then it's just a bad snowball effect. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and for Caine's character specifically, we see, okay, we have O-Dog taken by the streets. Caine is still a little reserved by this whole lifestyle, and then this is great storytelling in production, in my opinion, because we get, he's not into it, but then we get this flashback where we say, hey, this is the prime subject for someone who should be taken away by the streets and the violence, and who should have given up on this concept of life and morality a long time ago based on his circumstances. And so they're basically telling us that this, from a storytelling standpoint, in my opinion, they're saying, hey, here's O-Dog and here's Caine, and Caine's also been dealt a really shitty hand in life. So what's he going to do with it? And then we're going to see Caine's story play out. And I think it's beautiful. A beautiful opening. Just going to throw that out there.
That's a good point.
So then we're going to pick up with Caine, and we're going to have a high school graduation. And
this is present day in 93, quote unquote present day. So he's a 18-year-old kid graduating high school.
Which sort of hit a little bit to me because you saw, okay, the murders, these guys are part of the streets, and then you saw this upbringing, and you're like, where's he at now? And you're like, fuck, they're 18. Like, they're 18, man. Like, it kind of hits a little different. You see they're young, whole life ahead of them, and this is where they already are in their lives. So we're at a house party, of course, because it's the 90s. We have high school graduation. We got a house party, and we're heading out, James. I see you wrote here to Jackin the Crack.
But they call it Jackin the Crack in the movie, which
was surprising to me because I thought okay.
You thought that was like our childhood inside joke?
Well, now I'm wondering, is this where it all came from? Like, where did Jack and the Crack
It
come
might
from?
have been. It might have been.
Could be
Also,
this.
O-Dog also says the word bet in here, and the way that kids these days also use that slang term. I was like, wait, is that an old slang term? I thought that was new.
Everything comes back around, James.
Because like he's on the phone, he's like, all right, bet. And I was like, wait, is 2025 or is this 93? What's going on
We
here?
betting. Next thing I know, someone's going to say cap.
Someone's going to say skibbity rizzle up in this movie next.
I'm going to hate it. So Caine and his cousin Harold, they're going to get involved in a carjacking at this Jack of the Crack. And it's going to end up with our boy Harold being shot.
More like carjacking the crack.
Oh, yeah.
No, Harold gets hella shot in this scene. I do want to shout out Harold real quick. He's played by a guy named Saphir. He's a rapper from Oakland, so this is another Oakland-based rapper, Bay Area rapper. He's actually an old roommate of Tupac, and he was a dancer for Digital Underground. And he actually sadly passed away this last November. He was 54. There was no details released of why he passed away, but just another rapper cameo in this movie. And this is another scene when he does get gunned down. There's these guys in the car, and then we get a great break yourself, fool.
Break yourself, nigga.
And I'm thinking of the Wayne Brady, Dave Chappelle sketch.
Break yourself, fool. Oh, it's Wayne Brady, son.
So I was like, I'm sure they got that from this movie.
There's a couple solid like gangster one-liners in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Like ghetto gang. Yeah, there's some solid.
This movie had influence. It had aura. I'm surprised they didn't say that in this movie.
Skibbity rizzle.
So they get rolled up on, and these gangbangers are going to jack his car. He's got a Beamer, and Harold's looking at Caine saying, hey, get out of the car. I don't want you going down like this. Caine, in this moment, echoing the liquor store moment, he looks terrified, and he gets out of the car. Harold tries to pull a crazy hero move, I guess, like saving his own butt move, but he tries to pull a gun out and not go down like a bitch. But then he gets hella shot. Their car gets hella jacked. Jack and the Crack crew of O-Dog and AWACS and the girl and Sharif is there. They all witness this happening. They peel out. So Harold dies. Caine is injured, and they got to rush him to the hospital. It's this whole crazy thing, and they're just trying to go to Jack in the Box, but they get hella shot. Can you imagine every time we went for those 2 for 99-cent shitty Jack in the Box tacos, but they're so good, and we just got rolled up on and shot?
I was going to say, if I had $1 for every time I went to the Jack in the Box and saw violence, I could get 3.5 tacos. So Caine, O-Dog, and AWACS, they're not going to let this slide because that's not how the streets roll. And they're going to get vengeance for Harold because Harold died in cold blood in the streets. And you mentioned it earlier, James, but this is just a constant theme about death and the value of life. And you could constantly see how there's really no value of life in the streets, right? You belong to the streets, you die in the streets, you live by the rules of the streets. And Caine is just, like you said, you can see in his face, he hasn't bought into this. He's still redeemable. He's our redeemable character.
There's a moment here when O-Dog comes up, and after Caine's all good, they're like walking through the projects, and he says, hey, so you want to go like smoke these guys or what? We found out who they are. And then I don't know if it's the rookie acting of Tyron Turner or if it was planned, but it seems like he's not completely passionate about his answer, but he does say yes. So in the liquor store scene, when Harold gets shot scene, both those scenes, he's a little bit terrified and over his skis on that one. But then when O-Dog says, hey, you want to go cap these guys? He kind of looks around. He's like, yeah, I want to do it.
Word got back about them little marks who jacked you and Harold. I know where they be kicking it at. Down with the 187. Let's do this.
So I was like, it wasn't convincing to me. So I don't know if that was like a poor acting or if it was like by design. I don't want to say it's by design, but it's just something I noticed.
I like to think it's by design because I think you have this, there's his environment's pulling him this way and his heart's pulling him this way, right? In his head, he's saying, yeah, I have to be part of the streets, but his heart is saying like, I don't want to be part of this cycle of violence. So I like to think that it's intentional, but we're going to go through with this anyway. It doesn't matter what Caine's heart says to him at all.
Before he has to make this tough decision, he is hanging out with his grandparents He had to go live with them because the dad died, and then he was going to live with them temporarily. But then this is when the mom dies of an overdose. So he's there permanently. And the grandpa's always pushing religion on Caine. Speaking of death and the perspective on it, they're watching It's a Wonderful Life on the television. And Nick, I have not seen this movie. I know I haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life and Boys in the Hood. I'm a terrible person. That's why I'm doing this podcast. But Nick, I think you have seen It's a Wonderful Life. So I think that movie has something to do with death and the perception of death. And what is the plot summary, or like how is it related to the themes that we're seeing in this movie? Because I think it is on brand. It's up the alley of this.
So in It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart, he's having a rough time at work. Money gets stolen from his work, and things are going wrong. He has 2 kids. He's unhappy at home because he's so stressed. And then he gets to make a wish, and his wish is that he had never been born. And then he gets to see his life without him in it and how miserable everyone is around him. And then at the end, he gets to come back, and then he realizes, I do have a positive impact on this world, even if it's unseen. And so it's still important for me to live out my values and who I am because it affects more people than I realize. That's the story of It's a Wonderful Life. And you can kind of see how it plays into Menace II Society.
It plays into the themes. And I'm assuming the scene they're watching is at the end, because it's like when he's hugging his kids and he's like, come here, little ginger snap. Like all old timey talk.
Yeah.
So the grandparents are watching it with endearing eyes and like really enjoying it. And Caine's kind of rolling his eyes. He's like, this is dumb. Why are we watching this crack ass movie right now? But
it is weird because it's not Christmas time, right? In this movie,
not Christmas. I don't think.
But they're watching a Christmas.
You just graduated high school. It would be like June or July.
Yeah, but they're watching this Christmas movie. I'm like, this is weird, but okay.
This isn't Christmas. So I noticed that, and it reminded me of when they showed that clip of White Heat in Juice when Bishop, Tupac's character, was really into it. I was like, okay, they're definitely trying to play into. They're trying to add on to the theme. Like, now I'm thinking about this. Like, why did the Hughes brothers put this in? How'd they get the rights to this? So there's that, and then after the scene, O-Dog is like, all right, let's roll. And then Grandpa's like, no, Kevin. I think his name's Kevin, IRL. He's like, sit down, come on in. And then he starts quoting the Bible. And then this is when Caine says, whenever my grandpa says stuff about religion, goes in one ear, out the other. Like, I just start rolling my eyes. And then so they walk out. And then this is when his grandpa says,
Caine, do you care whether you live or die?
Caine takes a long time and says, I don't know.
I don't know.
So we're like, okay, that was my first indication of that's going to be a big theme. And like you said, Nick, it's already subtly been hinted at through the writing and what's been happening on screen up to this point.
Yeah. And not to derail the conversation anymore, but in the religion aspect, they do sort of play into this idea that the streets is its own religion. Like you can't serve 2 masters, right? You can't serve the streets and a religion. Like it's the streets and the streets alone, and these are the rules you follow for your life. There's so much going on, like behind the scenes. There's just all these subconscious themes that they're throwing at you about really building this world out. And it's not like building a world like we talked about fantasy movies. They're building a real world for you that you don't always see. So. But anyway, back to the plot here. So Caine, O-Dog, and AWACS, we're getting vengeance.
Gotta go kill these motherfuckers.
We got to. Because again, this is the religion of the streets. These are the rules of the streets. These are the rules that we live by. All right.
And we do get, again, more conflicting ideologies about death, because when they're rolling up to go smoke these fools, this is where we learn O-Dog doesn't give an F and he'll kill anybody. And Caine says, I don't want to killing kids or old people. And O-Dog is calling Caine a bitch, and he's like, you gotta man up and just fucking like not give a fuck and just like gun down to anybody because I'm young and I'm reckless and you're with me.
And we just gonna find these little marks and smoke them. Shit ain't that hard. I'm not killing no kids. You acting like a little bitch right now.
We do see that Caine still has some reservations about what they're about to go do and his actions overall, but they are going to roll up on this burger joint, and they are going to 100% smoke these fools who killed Harold with a shotgun, with a pistol, I think.
Yeah, break them.
One guy makes it out of there, but he runs into AWACS, who is a problem. And he just says, hey, you need some help right now? And then like kind of gives him like a hug and then just
Hey, homie, you need some help?
It's cold.
It's cold. It's raw. This movie's raw.
Punk ass nigga.
Justice has been served. They're hella dead.
They're super dead. Caine is just slowly slipping into this life with O-Dog. O-Dog is definitely the devil on his shoulder. And up to this point, we don't have an angel on the shoulder.
We do.
Right,
we have
right
Ronnie.
now.
We have Ronnie. We did get introduced to Ronnie. Let's just shout her out now. So this is Jada Pinkett.
Let's do it.
She's like, I guess, a little bit older than Caine. And she's like kind of a love interest, but it's not initially said right off the bat. But she had a baby with Caine's homie mentor from that 5-year-old flashback scene when he's showing him his gun on the porch. It's Purnell. So he knocked up Ronnie and he's in jail because of his hood rat shit. And they have a 5-year-old kid named Anthony. So we see a lot of parallels with that 5-year-old version of Caine and Anthony with like, you know, like, oh, let me get a sip of beer. Like, let me hold that gun, or like, I'm cussing in front of you. So you're like, oh man, this, like, I'm getting this other theme of like, it's just a vicious cycle. And like, we go through all the same shit generation after generation. And we got to make some changes. Let's change the way we eat. Let's change the way we live. And let's change the way we treat each other. See, the old way wasn't working. So whatever the fuck Tupac says. Still, I see no changes. Welcome to the... Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Speaking of Pac.
I know what we're saying. So yeah, so we have our O-Dog is our devil.
I know.
Ronnie, we haven't quite fully developed her as that angel, but she definitely is. You're right. She's that angel on the shoulder who's like, hey, there is a better life out there. You could tell she has seen beyond the streets. She has dreams.
She's the most
beyond
mature
the
person in this movie. She's like, a kid shouldn't be cussing. You need to not be shooting people and stealing cars and beating up people. You gotta like get your life together and be a good person.
She doesn't think that the streets are the end all be all. And that's a completely different standpoint from everyone else in this movie, minus Caine's grandparents so far, even though they haven't gotten out of the streets, to be fair. So as far as...
I mean, they probably got no money for it.
Right. But as far as Caine's concerned, he's saying, okay, if I don't conform to the streets, I'm just going to end up like you. Like there's no out here. So he doesn't quite listen to them because they're not providing this better future for him, where Ronnie is saying, hey, we can go make a life. Anyway, hood rat shit, though, is going to continue. James,
popping off.
Talk to me.
So we just get introduced to a multitude of these random characters that just kind of pass in and out of scenes. A lot of cameos by rappers. Nick, I had a top tier facial recognition of a famous Bay Area rapper. Did you clock this fool?
Are you telling me about Too Short?
Too Short,
James,
baby.
To be fair, thank you to NBC Sports Bay Area, because I didn't quite know what I hadn't seen Too Short in a long time, but he was just at the playoff game for the Warriors and the Rockets at the time we're recording. So I had just seen Too Short's face not 48 hours before watching this movie. I watched the movie and I go,
so you authentically recognized him.
Absolutely.
Way to go. Okay, you can keep your Bay Area card. I thought I was going to get you.
Blow your whistle, bitch. So bad. Like, come on. Hey, hold on now.
So bad. I don't want to sidebar too much, but how fucking annoying is it that the Philadelphia Eagles think that Too Short's song, Blow the Whistle, is their theme song?
I didn't know about this. But
you didn't know about that?
I didn't know this. However, I will say this to anybody listening. If you are from Philadelphia, you're trash. You are a trash fan base of every sport that you support, and you can suck it as far as I'm concerned. I have no love for you, and you could just stop listening to this podcast as far as I'm concerned. I'm not into it.
With those 4 points you just pointed out, how annoying is it that the Eagles are claiming Blow the Whistle as the Philadelphia Eagles theme song?
Well, I mean, that would make a lot of sense because they rely on a lot of penalties and they're a bunch of bitches who whine to the refs, so they want them to blow the whistle a lot. So I can see where they're coming from, but fuck them, because that's not your, like, have your own people, have your own thing.
That was good.
Oh, that pisses me off. No, I'm going to be heated. This is not going to be a good rest of the pod. Ooh.
Well, Nick, let me calm you down because our boy Too Short is in this movie.
He is in this movie.
So he is there's like this very angled up shot of him cocking the shotgun, and then he kind of puts it in O-Dog's face as like a scare tactic. But he's like, "You better smoke some fools," and this is when they're going to go kill those guys outside the burger joint. So Too Short gives O-Dog the shotgun. I did not recognize him there because it was a little bit of like a crazy extreme angle. But then later on, when he walks into a room and kind of like daps up Caine or whatever, I was like, "Is that Too Short?" And then lo and behold, it was.
Ever since game 3 and 4 that the Warriors have played, again, round 1, NBA playoffs against the Rockets, they've been playing that. And my wife, also from the Bay Area, decided that on our Sonos throughout the house, we have played Blow Your Whistle probably 50 times in the last 5 days throughout the house. Yeah. So it's been very Too Short.
The Bay is in Nashville, everybody.
It just worked that way. That Blow Your Whistle came on, and I was just really into Too Short over the last week, and then he showed up in this movie, so it's very serendipitous. I may not have recognized him if I hadn't seen his face in the last 48 hours, but I
follow him on Instagram, so I know what this fool looks like, but I was like, I think that's a young Too Short, and it totally was. And I was surprised how many Bay Area ties there are to this movie, because the Hughes brothers, I think they're from Detroit, but they moved to Pomona when they were like 8 or 9. So they're like kind of LA based now, but Tupac has huge ties to Oakland, a lot of ties to Bay Area, knows Too Short, knows E40, knows Spice One, knows all those guys. So I guess it makes sense with the connections.
Can I tangent real quick? And you can cut this out in post.
So go for it.
Yeah, you can cut this. I'm extra tangenting. You cut this out in post. So I had a guy come to my house as an appliance repair person. And he was from St. Louis.
This is staying in the podcast, by the way.
That's totally fine. He was from St. Louis.
St. Louis appliance guy, it's staying in. Make it good.
Yeah, St. Louis appliance guy came to my house, and older guy, probably early 50s, black guy. And you know, I like chatting with people in my house. I'm a handy person, so we're just shooting the shit, having a good time. And he's asked me where I'm from, and I told him, originally the Bay Area. And he starts telling me, he goes, "Man, in the early to mid 90s and even late 90s, Bay Area rap influenced so many of me and my friends' inner circles." I said, "Really?" And he brought up Too Short. We were talking about E40 and Too Short and the whole crew back then. And so I didn't realize how much Bay Area rap inside of these more niche hip hop communities in these other metro areas that didn't have their own rap scene, how far reaching it was. And so kind of to bring it back to your point, as far as, surprising to see all these Bay Area rappers, it really did have a much bigger reach on the street level than I think I ever realized.
Yeah, me too. I have the same sentiments. I feel like it was always just kind of like our music, and then when it would hit the mainstream at some point, be like, we're on the map. But no, they've been on the map, because Ryan Williams, when they were talking about all the hip hop guys that are in this movie, they're like, yeah, we got a bunch of Bay Area guys, like a bunch of Bay Area rappers. This is the music we grew up on. I was like, people know about this back then that weren't from the Bay? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it had its own flavor and its own sauce, and it was far reaching. And I talked to people out here who are from, I think you mentioned, Detroit, where the Hughes brothers are from St. Louis or Memphis or Chicago, and they're aware. They know, like, the Bay Area rap and that whole scene really did have a really wide reach. And so it's cool to say I'm from there, and I know these songs, and I know these guys,
Too Short,
and it's
personally.
I know Too Short. He's my guy, friend of the show now.
So anyway, sorry going on a tangent, everybody, but we're Bay Area folks. So whenever we see one of our boys on the big screen, we go hoot and holler.
We blow our whistle
with the boys. Let's go. Chauncey, we're gonna get introduced to this guy. So this is Clifton Powell. The bro has been.
Recognize this guy from anything?
I do recognize him because he's been in 265 projects as an actor, according to IMDb. Wow. I'm just gonna list 2 of them. He is Pinky in Next Friday. I recognize that right off the bat. And I didn't know he voiced Big Smoke from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Yeah.
All we had to do was chase the damn train, CJ. All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
Can I make an admission to you? And again, anybody who listens to this podcast goes, these aren't movie reviewers. This is just going to really add to your fire, because you don't know how I recognize him. This is Earl from Norbit. Okay. A movie I know way too much.
Why? Why do you know that? I've never seen Norbit.
I've seen it like 7 times.
Why? Why have you seen Norbit 7 times? That's not okay, Nick. That's not okay. You can't see Norbit 7 times.
And never see Menace to Society or Boys in the Hood, but you've seen Norbit 7 times. This is who I am as a person. And this is how I recognized our guy Chauncey. So there it is.
So bad. Oh my God. Okay.
Sorry. Had to bring it up.
I'm glad you did. Chauncey, he is going to be a side problem. And he's also just part of the crew. So he's hanging out with Too Short, MC Pooh, MC8, and O-Dog. And they're all hanging out in the house. And then someone knocks on the door. It's like this white, nerdy insurance guy. And he's asking for this Nissan. And this scene was hilarious to me. Well, it was confusing. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I didn't know if this insurance guy was commissioning Chauncey to steal a vehicle for him or what. But the scene was so funny because Clifton Powell, he's like, why the hell are you banging on my door this early? And then the nerdy white guy's like, oh, you said to come at 1 o'clock. So it's funny because it's like 1 p.m. in the afternoon at this point. And then Chauncey says, I don't give a fuck what I said. It's like, okay, well, you're going to be unreasonable for the rest of this movie.
I don't know. How do you overcome that? I wouldn't know what to do if I knocked on a door. Like,
why the fuck you coming here at 1 o'clock? Because he said 1 o'clock. I don't give a fuck what I said.
This is the nerdiest white guy you've ever seen too, with the wire rim glasses and just the whole.
He's not supposed to be here. And Chauncey's kind of clowning him because he knows he's out of his element. And then he's like, he kind of has like some crazy eyes when he's talking to him. He's like, why don't you come back around 10:30? And then I was like, is this like a funny scene?
Be here tomorrow night about 10:30.
I'm sorry. Are you shooting me tomorrow night?
Do I stutter, motherfucker?
No, you're right.
What, you scared to come through this neighborhood at night, motherfucker? Huh?
No problem.
You ain't too scared to have a black man steal for your funky ass, is you?
You're right.
Man, get the fuck out of here.
Okay, thanks.
I was very confused of what was happening.
Definitely feels like he was trying to be part of this like insurance scam, like you were saying. Maybe he was like, oh, steal this car. I have no idea. And Chauncey, I don't think he knows what's going on. He was high and talked to this guy, and it's a mess. I don't think there was ever any resolution to this guy as far as I'm concerned. So
the insurance guy? No. That's the last we see of him.
It was a really funny scene, and also just showed us Chauncey is unhinged and insane.
Yep. Crazy eyes.
But we're going to get introduced to one of our least unhinged and non-insane people in this movie, and this is Sharif. And this is one of Caine's closest friends, and he is a reformed Muslim. So this was the character Tupac was supposed to play. But this represents our reformed character, right? So we have O-Dog, the irredeemable. We have Sharif, the redeemable, and Caine's really floating in that gray area in between. But Sharif, he wants to leave and live a more righteous life. And he's sort of, his path is to bring everybody along with him and have everybody reject the street lifestyle, choose a life of righteousness and redemption. And he wants to leave LA for Kansas with his father, Mr. Butler. And Mr. Butler is going to try and be that father figure that Caine never had, impart some wisdom, try to speak to him on a very human level.
I love Mr. Butler, and he's played by the third of our vets, I'll say, because the Hughes brothers were kind of raving about the three veteran actors they got for this movie. So the first one's going to be Samuel L. Jackson doing that cameo for the flashback sequence playing Caine's father. They got Bill Duke, that the detective scene when he came in and was interrogating Caine.
Oh.
The guy who's like, it fucked up, right? You done fucked up, right? Like, it's such a quotable line. So, and if you've seen Bill Duke, like you're like, I've seen this guy in a bunch of stuff, but like, I don't know his name. Bill Duke is that guy. He plays Trask in X-Men: The Last Stand. And he's one of those guys, been a bunch of projects, but Bill Duke is like a recognizable name and face. Samuel Jackson. So Charles S. Dutton, he's going to be our third actor here. So he's brought in for another influential but small role, and he's playing Sharif's father. And Mr. Butler here, they're at the family barbecue cookout. I'd be surprised if Lucky and the crew didn't just stop by crash this family reunion barbecue on their way up to Oakland in their convoluted ass route. But Mr. Butler, he's just a straight shooter. He just spits facts. And later on, after we're introduced to Mr. Butler as like the cool dad, he like walks up and everybody respects him, but he's still got that dad energy, just like he's been around the block, but he is still like, I got my shit together, and I'm like I understand your hood rat shit, but like I'm a better person now. So later on, we get this scene with Sharif, Mr. Butler, and Caine walks into the classroom, and Mr. Butler is really just laying it straight for him. He's saying like, look, like if you're gonna, like, you got to find something that is going to get you out of this goddamn life. Like, cause look at my son, bro's Muslim. Like I'm not Muslim, but if being Muslim is going to help him survive out here being a young black man, then I'm all for it. If Islam can do that and Jesus can't, like, I don't care. Like, I just want my kid that I love and adore. I want him to survive. So like, you need to get your shit together. Like, you need to find your anchor. You need to find your North Star and go follow that. And he does end this monologue with like, you know, like, I don't care what you do. You just got to survive. Like, cause it's hard out here for us.
So what are you going to do, KD? You going to fuck around out there in the streets till you get killed? Like your cousin, maybe?
What's that, sir?
Well, Sharif tells me him and Stacy have been trying to get you to leave with him.
I don't know about no Kansas.
Yeah, you know, I hear you there, you know. I was teasing Sharif about that before you came in. But what are you going to do if you stay? You know, Sharif used to get into all kinds of shit before he found the nation. Now, I'm no Muslim, but I agree with some of the things they say regarding black people. And if Allah helps to make him a better man than Jesus can, then I'm all for it.
So what you trying to say, Mr. Butler?
Whatever changes you have to make, then you just do it. You got to think about your life. Being a black man in America isn't easy. The hunt is on. And you're the prey.
I thought this was a really cool scene, really good acted scene. And Charles S. Dutton coming in for a small but powerful, impactful role. I liked it a lot.
This was a good scene. And again, we're seeing all these good influences trying to drag Caine out of the mud here. And Caine continuously finds himself in the swamp, being bogged down by all this mud and bad decisions and being involved. And you're going, can you ever get out of this? You have all these people pulling from you, giving these good decisions, you know, giving these options. You have Mr. Butler, you have Sharif, you have Ronnie, you have your grandparents. They're trying to get you out. But what's going on? And why are they stuck in this situation? Like, what's happening in this neighborhood that's causing all this angst? Well, James, this next scene is going to give us a little insight to that. When they get pulled over, and for what seems to be no reason at all, and Caine and Sharif are going to get arrested. And again, we're talking about we're coming off the race riots. There's high tension. Cops and black people are not getting along at all, and everything seems to be for a bad reason. And you're going, oh no, what's going on now? Well, these cops are pretty racist, it turns out, and they're going to go ahead and beat our boys, Sharif. And this scene hits extra hard because it's not Caine and O-Dog, where the audience is like, well, O-Dog's probably
O-Dog deserves
not like
it.
Not like anybody deserves police brutality, but you feel
but
less
if you
bad.
were, yeah.
But Sharif here is a reformed, you know, he's Muslim. He's trying to do the right thing.
He's preaching. He be preaching
like
all the time. Like, we can't be drinking, can't be smoking, don't be calling each other N-words. Like, we got to treat each other better. And then when he gets beat up, it's like extra sad.
It's extra sad, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what's the point of reforming yourself if the system is still going to, right? So Caine's seeing a lot of this, right? Why try to be like my grandparents if you're still stuck here in the ghetto? Why try to be like Sharif if the system's still taking you down? Why try to be like Ronnie if your boyfriend is still in prison and you're still stuck in this dead end situation being a single mom? Like, there really is no reward for being a good person. And so I feel like the scene hits extra hard for Caine because all of these paths he's being given right now, they all seem like a dead end eventually. So he's saying, why fight against this system? I might as well just embrace the streets. And so this is another example here in this scene with the cops.
I think that's a great point to bring up. And they definitely have to embrace the streets because they're going to get dumped in these streets. They're actually going to get dropped off in a rival gang or just the wrong hood, as it said, territory. This is a Latino neighborhood. So the cops thought that they were just going to drop these two young black kids off and these Latinos were going to beat them up. And it was a little sketchy leading up to it because they get dropped off in an alleyway. There's 4 Latino guys out working on a car, or they're stealing a car. I don't know. I'll say they're working on a car because they end up being good dudes. Because
they're working on stealing a car.
They're working on stealing that car. And Caine, through narration, says the essays was cool. They took us to the hospital. I was like, oh, that's sweet.
Thanks, essays.
I had a Mexican hood slang counter going because they said a lot of the same slang words a lot. So, Nick, in the scene alone, we get the word Holmes 8 times.
A lot of Holmes. It's not a long scene, granted. It's
about a 90-second scene, and we get the word Holmes 8 times. Like, hey, Holmes, like, what's going down there, Holmes? Oh, shit, Holmes. I'm like, okay, I'm going to rewind it, start counting these. And then we get 4 essays. We get 2 by the essays, and we get 2 via Caine by narration. 8 Holmes, 4 essays.
It's the 90s, baby.
We get a cutaway to Ronnie and her kid, Anthony, and Anthony says, what happened to Caine? Like, did he do something bad? And then Ronnie's like, no, like, he literally did nothing. He's like, is that the same that happened to Dad? And they say, well, Dad's a little bit different. And then Anthony says, is Caine going to die? And we're like, okay, here's another little breadcrumb of what this main thing is going to boil down to. And Ronnie says, no, of course he's not going to die. So then Ronnie goes to visit Caine in the hospital, and she says, why don't you ever smile? And then Caine says, what the hell is there to smile about? And Ronnie says, well, you're alive, aren't you? And then Caine says, who says that's good? So again, he's just like, do I even care if I'm alive? Do I even want to do this? So it's a big, heavy theme in this movie. In this scene, she also says, hey, I got a job. It's in Atlanta. Wondering if you want to come with me. And so Caine's got to chew on that. So he's getting recruited to Kansas and Atlanta. So which one we going to? Which one would you go to?
I'd choose Atlanta. It's a much more fun city.
Okay.
I don't know where in Kansas. That's a big state. It's a flat state. There's a lot of like not going on in Kansas.
Stacy and Sharif are going because he's like, Stacy's going to go play ball in Kansas, and I'm going with him. It's like, all right.
Like Wichita? You going to Wichita State? Are you going to go be a Jayhawk? Like, what are we talking? Are you going to go be a Wildcat? Like, it's a big state. There's not a lot going on. You can move to the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and you could just hate it there. There's no streets. There's just a dirt road. And then what kind of rules do you live by?
They're going to be Kansas rules, not street rules. And Ronnie and Stacy apparently are lined up to go, and Sharif. So they're going to have this going away party for those two. And then at this scene, this is where Ronnie asks Caine if he thought about it, if he's coming to Atlanta. And then he's giving her a hard time. He's like, what the hell? Like, why would I go out there? Like, it's just going to be the same. I'm still black. This is still America. It's still a hard time. Like, what's the point? And then so she brings up, oh, Anthony asked if you were going to die. And then like immediately he's like, okay, I'll go to Atlanta with you. So that was like a little bit of a kind of like there wasn't much to like effort in the script there to say like why he decided to go to Atlanta. It's literally like, I don't want to go to Atlanta. And then she says, my son thinks you're going to die and it's not safe here. And then he's like, okay, I'll go. So it was like a really quick fix there.
It could have got brought more because I think there was a lot underlying there where Caine doesn't want to die. He's looking for an out, and this was his out. And the kid, right? Caine, as far as we know, still has a pure heart where, you know, the innocence of a child saying he doesn't want you to die could pull you that direction, right? The innocence of a child could pull you there. But you're right. They kind of quick fixed it in that scene where he just sort of agrees to it almost unwillingly, like, fine, I'll go. Like, well, okay,
Yeah, it really
if your
was.
kids, if your kid's upset about it, I guess I'll go. It's like, it's not really okay.
Yeah, the way it was acted, it seemed like he had thought about it for a long ass time, but the pacing of the scene, it was like you obviously didn't think about it for a long ass time, because I'm seeing this in real time, how you just instantaneously said, okay, I'll go. So I think it was supposed to be like a genuine decision, but it comes off as like a little bit phony just because of how fast it happens.
Yeah, it's unfortunate there, because up until this point, we have a really good struggle with Caine, and then we bash movies all the time for this.
Like, okay.
Like all this internal struggle, and then this like quick resolution. You're like, it could have really been a much deeper scene.
Should have been different.
Here we are.
It's fine. So they're gonna bang, and he's a little bit in reserve because this is Purnell's girl, and Purnell's in the pen, and he's like, Purnell got a baby with you, but I'm down to bang. So then they go back to the party after banging. So like it's just like we had sex and now we're back, and we're gonna have some issues because Chauncey here, crazy old Chauncey, he's coming back, and he's gonna start being a little pervy weirdo. He's gonna start feeling up Ronnie. Caine sitting at the poker table with his boys, and it's very, very reminiscent of the flashback scene with Samuel L. Jackson, because they're also sitting at this round table. There's 4 of them, and then Samuel L. Jackson guns down this guy mindlessly for owing him money. And then so Caine is looking at Chauncey kind of sexually harass Ronnie. He's getting them all riled up, and then he asks O-Dog for his gun, and then pistol whips the crap out of Chauncey. And it's this whole big thing. Nick, you accidentally watched the director's cut, and we found out there's quite a few differences with the theatrical version that I watched and the director's cut that you watched. Upon our revelation, you mentioned something that was different of this scene that I thought would have been great if they left it in. Can you explain it for the audience?
Yeah. So Chauncey, up to this point, has been a bit of an ancillary character. He's just sort of this protagonist out there. We mentioned him earlier
Antagonist.
in the Nissan Altima scene. Antagonist, sorry. But he's just this almost stereotypical street guy, right? Who's just this force pulling Caine towards the streets. This is what you could become, yada, yada. We have that with the Ultima scene. But he's not this menacing character. He's kind of crazy, a little funny in how crazy he is. But this scene, he gets really aggressive. And before all this, in the director's cut, we have Chauncey, who's really ragging on Ronnie's son. Ronnie's son has a toy gun, and Chauncey takes it from him and says, "Oh, you want to be a man? You want to learn how to use this? You want to know, what it feels like to basically be a gangster, to kill somebody." And all of this is really upsetting to Caine. And so this is where we really see Caine have this struggle. And I wish this was part of the theatrical release, because I feel like it adds just this extra depth to Caine, because in this scene in the theatrical release, we have Caine who's just standing up for Ronnie, which is a noble thing enough. But when you add the whole aspect of Ronnie's kid, Caine is seeing like there's this whole innocence involved in this, that Chauncey is this corruptive force into this whole lifestyle. Like he is the start of this endless cycle, and I can step up and stop this. And this really brings you to like, oh, Caine still has that grip of humanity in him, this morality in him to stop this.
It drives me nuts that this was not included in the theatrical version, because like what you're explaining right now, I haven't seen it. Like I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds great. It sounds like it's perfectly on brand for the themes. It kind of brings full circle of when the Hughes brothers said in that behind the scenes featurette, they said, "Oh, our intention was to enlighten folks of why people are like this, because they grow up with this stuff and it's like a vicious cycle." If this was included in the movie, that would totally go on theme with like decision making. It would add to Caine's personal growth. So what the hell is the studio thinking here? Not including this in it's not even like a long scene. I'm assuming.
And it's the full circle of Caine, right? Having seen this when he was a kid and how much it informed his life and him rejecting it.
Does this part happen before they have sex and have that conversation, or is it after?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
I'm sorry, but let's say if it was before, then
it's like concurrent.
It can't be. If it was before, it would kind of like justify Caine's quick ass decision to be like, okay, I'll go to Atlanta. because then like he could be like, oh, like I just got a wake up call, looking at Chauncey kind of dog this poor innocent little kid who's supposed to be a cute little kid and his world is supposed to be surrounded by innocence. It's not supposed to be surrounded by gangbang and hood rat bullshit. So if Caine saw that from a third person perspective, an objective perspective, and said, oh, this is awful. Like I'm like a victim of my upbringing and my environment. And I can make it out if I really put my mind to it, but it's so difficult. And I see how easy it is to have this influence from older folks, shining light on like what you need to do, what it is to be a quote unquote man, what it is to be quote unquote hard, what it is to be quote unquote part of this is life. And this is how you have to deal with everything. So I thought that would have been great if they left it in. I have no idea why this got cut out.
Yeah, I have no idea because again, like you said, we think of it that Caine has these father figures in his life, right? Mr. Butler and his grandparents, and then you have Sharif coming to give him guidance. It's this juxtaposition, like you said, where he's given this gun at this table, and there's this bad man over there in the room, and he has to take care of it. And really, he has this parallel now with his actual biological dad. And it's like, how do you actually handle this situation now? It's like, it's super powerful. And it's just not part of the theatrical release.
I'm sad I'm sad I didn't see it, but I'm glad you did. So I think that should have been kept in. I don't know if that was a studio note. Going back to Juice, how they had their own studio notes for the ending. And then Ernest R. Dickerson, the director of that movie, said, actually, I wanted to end like this. And the studio's like, no, that's too dark. It's too... That's lifting up the villain in a certain way. We want it to be a squeaky clean. This is what you get if you're a bad person. So I don't know why. I think that would have made the scene and pulled a lot of weight for the movie as a whole, being a very small scene. So I'm kind of upset that it's not included into the OG version, but happy it's out there in some capacity.
It's unfortunate.
Chauncey getting his ass beat. He's going to retaliate. He's actually going to leak the security footage tape of when O-Dog murked the Korean store owners, and Caine was there. So now there's this whole liability, and Chauncey's payback is to just leak this footage to the cops. So now they're going to be in some legal jeopardy here, and it's going to give a little bit more motivation to skip town. O-Dog is just hiding out with his homies, and Caine is contemplating just leaving town, going to Atlanta. They do go see Purnell in jail, and Purnell basically says like, hey, do right by Anthony. Don't let him wind up like me. This isn't right. Like, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. I was wrong, and I don't care that you're banging Ronnie.
Yeah, Purnell's kind of a good guy at this point.
It's pretty chill.
Like, hey, don't make the same mistakes I did. But again, this is another guy who's just part of the streets. Like, he lives by a different code. This is the street code. And he's kind of rejected that in prison, which is just, again, Ronnie's kid is kind of the key to a lot of this, right? That innocence where he's like, protect this kid. Like, protect this innocence. This is the only thing that matters. Don't let this cycle continue. Take care of him.
There was this other kind of, not B story, I guess B story, but not really. It's not like a fully fleshed out B story, but Caine does end up hooking up with some random girl named Elena. And she calls him out in the midst of all this and says, I'm pregnant. And then Caine shakes it off like, I don't know. I don't have time for this. I don't believe you. I was like, okay, that's a little bit of a dick move there. Feel bad for Elena. So Elena's cousin is going to confront Caine, and Caine's going to snap and beat his ass. And this is going to prompt his grandparents. It's the final straw. They said, you got to get out. Like, we're sick of your antics. We're sick of your shit. You can't live in our house anymore. And he's like, I'm going to Atlanta. Can I at least stay here until then? And they're like, no. That is a small thing that is brewing up in the background. So, of course, when we're ready to pack up for ATL, Elena and her cousin, this is the guy that Caine stomped out. So Elena's cousin and his crew, they're going to pull up and they're going to do a classic South Central drive-by. Everybody's there. O-Dog is there. Sharif is there. Stacy's there. Ronnie's there. And, of course, Caine is there. And Anthony on his little big wheel tricycle. something cool that I noticed after watching this movie, Nick, in the music video for Kendrick Lamar's Squabble Up, they have a young kid actor in the same getup that Anthony was in that music video. There's a lot of like just kind of cool imagery in that music video. I was like, oh, I got that little Easter egg. We're going to do this drive-by and everybody is going to get shot up. Sharif is going to be Sharif cheese, Swiss Sharif cheese. He gets Swiss cheesed.
He does get cheesed.
O-Dog is returning fire. Caine is getting shot up, and he actually goes to go kind of be a meat shield for Anthony. And I thought that was a bad idea because he's technically the target. So then he's kind of putting a target on Anthony's back by going close to him. But I understand the sentiment. So he does become a body shield for him. And he gets shot the fuck up.
I think Sharif is probably the hardest part of this death.
Yeah, that was shitty because you're thinking, like, why the hell does Sharif go down? He's been so nice this entire time. And then he's collateral damage in Caine's stupid ass decision to knock up a girl and then beat up her cousin. That's not fair.
I'm not sure how I feel about this ending. Maybe it's not so random, but just her cousin comes and kills him because she got knocked up. It seems like such an innocuous thing after everything that Caine's been through to end his life there and kill Sharif.
Well, I guess it doesn't matter because like something was going to come around. It could have been like the guys they shot at the burger joint, like their boys now seek revenge. It could have been anything. I don't think it matters. I don't think that part matters too much. I think maybe we spent a little bit too much on screen time with them of like building them up as like important characters like Elena and her cousin. Because we have like they have their own cutaway scenes and we're like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Why do we care about that? Why are they the catalyst? I don't think it matters. I think at some point something was going to catch up to Caine through all his hood rat shit, and bro dies. And we get a voiceover line as he dies. He reflects on his choices. He's questioning whether he even had a real chance to live. And then it echoes. I was remembering what his grandpa said of, "Do you care if you live or die?" He said, "I don't know." And then I was like, I'm seeing it all come together. And then he literally says, my grandpa one time asked me if I cared or if I lived or died. I was like, no, I remember that. You don't need to tell me.
No instructions. No instructions.
He does care if he dies, but it's too late now. And shockingly, directed by the Hughes brothers. We hit credits.
We do.
Nick, the funniest names in the credits. There's a little bit of cheating in here because there are some stage names, but I'll throw out the stage names first. Yo-Yo and Pooh Man. Pooh Man played...
I saw Pooh Man.
Pooh Man played Doc. He's also a Bay Area guy, Bay Area rapper.
Yes.
MC Pooh Man from Oakland.
Pooh spelled like Winnie the Pooh, P-O-O-H.
Spelled like Winnie the Pooh, so he is the Pooh Man. He played Doc. Yo-Yo played Girl at the Party. And Nick Clifton Gonzalez. He's back, baby. I called him out in Poetic Justice and funniest names.
I was going to say, for some reason, I remember Gonzalez.
Yeah, Clifton Gonzalez. He played the mailroom manager in Poetic Justice. And in this movie, he plays Vato number 2.
Essay number 2, as far as I'm concerned.
And rounding it out with some authentic goodies, we have Woogie Thomas, Jill Gurr, and Griff Ruggles.
Griff Ruggles, my guy.
Jill Gurr. All right, Nick. So pop the corn. Let's pop the corn. I have a talking point related to the ending, related to the whole movie. What's this movie saying at the end when both Caine and Sharif go down to the same fate? Is it saying like it doesn't matter what you do, no matter what kind of person you are? Is this Final Destination 8? Death was always coming for Sharif because he did something weird in his past life. Was he on an airplane that was supposed to go down and he survived?
Could be. I read it as everyone has to pay for their sins. And that's kind of a defeatist
what did
view of
Sharif
this
do?
movie. We don't know what Sharif did. Maybe that's what Tupac had an issue with, right? What was Sharif's life before the conversion to Islam? And why is he a Muslim now? And what prompted that? You know, did he do something poor?
No, because if you accept
he talks about redemption.
If you forgive yourself, if people can forgive you, it's not up to some random drive-by to give you your punishment. That's up to God. That's up to the Allah to judge that.
But I think I think that's the point of the movie is the streets supersede it all, right? The streets are its own religion.
The streets is the OP religion in this scenario.
I mean, that's kind of what the Hughes brothers are telling us throughout this movie, right? Is we're getting introduced to all these other saviors and ways to get out, but in reality, there is no way to get out because you ultimately, maybe you can get out, but at the end of the day, you still have to pay for your sins, right? And that's what happens with Caine, and we don't know enough about Sharif. His character pre-introduction to this movie wasn't developed. That might have been Tupac's issue with it, but clearly he had to reform himself. So I don't know what he did pre what we saw in the movie, but whether its consequences always catch up or you have to pay for your sins. And I don't necessarily love the end message of there's no redemption.
I don't think that's what it was trying to say because that doesn't seem fair. Because I think the whole point
fair. I think that's the point.
I think the whole point of religion is supposed to be confessing sins and like accepting like your faults and like coming to peace with yourself and forgiveness. I don't think that's a message.
It's not the point of religion. It's the point of the streets, right? And I think that's the point. The point is if that's the case, brothers,
then the Sharif part was not built up. If we're talking about the streets and like what happened in the plot, if we didn't see what he did, then I don't think he deserves to go out like that.
No, he doesn't. And that's the thing. Nobody. But that's the whole point,
survives, right? So he doesn't pay for his sins. He was the most lethal, ruthless guy out there.
But again, I think that's the whole point of what the Hughes brothers are saying is there's no real rhyme or reason to the streets.
So it's not paying for your sins. It's just there's no rhyme or reason.
It is paying for your sins, but the streets are unjust and unfair, and that's kind of what we've seen the whole movie, right? Like. There's no reason O-Dog should still be around and why Caine should suffer. But this is just a reality on the ground for them. And there's no heroes. Everybody eventually succumbs to the streets. And Caine paid for... O-Dog will eventually pay for his sins, the same way Chauncey will eventually pay for his sins. And the streets will exact their revenge on everybody. But there is no redemption from it. I think it's a very dark ending.
On the surface, it is a very dark ending. So that's why I had that question of what are they trying to say with the redeemable character you labeled as Sharif going down at the same fate as Caine, who was a morally cloudy character. And we had to see his progression throughout the entire movie. So it's very interesting. I might not get it to now and today, but maybe it'll come to me later. So this one will have me thinking.
It is. It's a thinker. And again, I'm not saying I agree with the ending or the message that it's sending that there is no redemption, but I think that the consistency that the Hughes brothers were showing throughout this movie is the streets are alive, basically. They dictate what's happening in your life. They are the environment. And as much as you want to get out of them, you are shackled to them. And there's no getting out. And again, it's a dark concept. And like they said, they wanted to move away from the boys in the hood where people get out and show this other side where there is no escape for a lot of these folks. Even if you want to, even if you plan to, even if you confess your sins and redeem yourself, the streets do not care about that. They play by their own rules and they come for you. And everybody's going to eventually pay the piper in some way, shape, or form. And maybe O-Dog and Chauncey's punishment is that they're always tied to the streets, right? There's no life beyond that. And if you try to leave, you die. It's almost like its own weird culty religion in a way. And so that's what I got from it, at least.
I'm not 100% bought in on that, but the way this movie ends so abruptly and in a dark manner, I can't really fault your findings there because I don't really have a clear answer for that because it's not karma based on evidence we've seen on screen for those two characters. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting ending, I'll say.
I mean, we have a lot of characters through the movie who did not deserve, like the Korean owners at the beginning.
Maybe they were super racist, Nick.
They could have been racist.
You said we didn't see what Sharif did off screen. We don't know what those guys did off screen. That's true.
O-Dog was
homegirl was running a brothel up in San Francisco. It was big trouble up there.
True.
Yeah, that's going to be a straight up thinker there. But yeah, I think what you brought up about the streets and just the culture and that the entrapment phenomenon of that there is no escape. It's a scary thought. And so is the whole point of this movie a cautionary tale? Is it just to shed a new perspective on people who don't grow up in these kind of environments? Like, what do you think the Hughes brothers in the beginning said why we made this movie is to shed light on why folks from certain inner city areas are like this. Do you think there's a different a deeper meaning there, or is it literally just like a cautionary tale of like, heads up,
Yeah,
don't be a gangbang?
Yeah, but I think it's the understanding point, right? So you're talking about a time in America where there's a whole swath of the country, right, who are like, what's going on over there? Why are people dying in the inner city? You know, it's a choice. You can get out if you want. And the whole point of the Hughes brothers is saying, hey, look, here's the story of a guy who had a good heart, who got caught up in it and then tried to get out, and he couldn't. Like, he still succumbs to the violence. Like, there's still this cycle of violence that lives, that it's not as simple as, hey, just stop committing crime. It's you're stuck in this world, in this environment that is this endless cycle. And I think you're talking about Ronnie's son, Anthony, who's, is Caine going to die? No, he's not going to die. He's going to come with us. Well, we don't even know. He does die. And what's going to happen to Anthony? Like, he's now caught up in this cycle of violence, right? The guy he looked up to has now died on the streets. And so I think it's not a cautionary tale. I think it's more of an understanding for, hey, we're going to put this out in theaters worldwide or countrywide and say, hey, you think it's so easy to just say, hey, stop, just leave the streets. It's not like that. It's not that easy to do so. So I don't think it's a cautionary tale as much as it is like a real picture at this is what's happening on the streets, and this is what happens.
If I'm
even
from Watts,
good-hearted
Compton,
folks.
California, I don't want to hear that, Nick. I don't want to hear that there's no hope for me. What the hell? What's your problem? Is the message extra energy, extra motivation to get out, or just like you're doomed? Then that's messed up.
I think it's a messed up. I do. I think it's just a dark storyline of you're a product of your environment. Well, I think maybe if you were supposed to take a lesson from this, I think the lesson would be to get out of the environment as fast as possible. If you have kids, get them out of that environment as fast as possible because of how easy it is to get caught up in the cycle.
Nick, this whole movie actually could tie in to that scene that wasn't included into this movie. When Caine, in that director's cut scene, when Caine is looking at Chauncey, big dog and toxic masculinity, machismo, Anthony, it says, this is how you gotta do, this is how you survive out here. Stay strapped, get a gun, do this, do that, don't be a bitch. Caine is looking at that objectively from the other room, and he's like a person who's witnessing this thing that is wrong, and he says, I can step in and do something about it. The audience is Caine in that situation, and the movie is the altercation between Chauncey and Anthony, and we're sitting here saying, like, we have to step in and do something and stop this because this is wrong, but we can't. We're the audience. We can't breach through the screen and stop what's happening on screen. Like, maybe to kind of like help reason this movie just for my own sake, I think it is supposed to be a painting of what can happen in those environments and how bad we want to reach in and say, stop riding with O-Dog, like, stop doing this stupid shit. Like, and then when you see those flashes of terror or empathy, sympathy for people who got shot, or just, I don't want to shoot certain people, I don't want to kill people, I don't want to get these certain people hurt. It's just for the audience to like get those glimpses of like, please do the right thing. But in the movie, which we are not there for, it's not up to us. It's a story, it's a hood story that unfolds in front of our eyes, and we can't do anything about it. And I think that's the artistic part about it. You could have a reasonable thing like, oh, Caine saved this old man from getting run over by a car because he fell in the crosswalk, and then later that old man turned out to be a superhero and he saved him at the end. Like, I mean, that's like a stupid example, but yeah, there is no rhyme or reason. Like, oh, you did this good thing, so this good thing is going to save your ass at the end. I think it is just supposed to be just an example of how it is, and paint the picture for the hood life for mainstream America. And we're all sitting here thinking, please do the right thing. But then we have no influence on it, just like them streets.
It makes for a really good movie and a really frustrating movie because, like you said, you want to reach into the screen and shake Caine and say, hey, there's a better path. Stop, please stop. Walk away. And it's not that easy. And I think a large majority of us can think back to certain friends or people in our life where you just want to shake them and say, walk away, stop, do something different, stop this path you're on. But it's never that easy, right? It's just never that easy. There's all these factors that play into it that will eventually lead to your downfall. And it makes for great storytelling, but a very satisfyingly frustrating concept for a viewer.
That's a good way to put it. The ending was satisfyingly frustrating. Nick, my next talking point, which is a little bit not as serious, is Purnell a pedophile?
Absolutely, dude. If Anthony's
let's break down the math.
Old,
we got to break down the math here. So Purnell in that flashback scene, Caine is about 5 years old. Purnell is somewhat of an adult, at least 16, if not 18, 20.
At least.
If Anthony is 5, and let's just say that Ronnie is Jada Pinkett's age, which I think would be 22 or something like that, early 20s. You subtract 5, that would make her at least 17, if not 16, 15. And Purnell, who is 16 in a 13-year-old flashback, so that would make him 29.
At the earliest. We're giving him a lot of leeway here.
He could be 20. So he could be 33 in this movie, which would make him 27 when he knocks up underage Ronnie. So my question is, Nick, is Purnell a certified lover boy, certified pedophile? Wop, 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 wop.
Wop, wop, wop. Indeed, my friend.
I hate to hear that. Fuck him up.
Better hide your little sister from him.
Because you know he likes them young.
And if he ever heads to cell block 1 in that prison he's at, I don't think good things are going to happen to him.
Hey, speaking of Kendrick, I just want to shout out the MC8 in this movie. He does have a guest verse on his track Mad City off an all-timer album, Good Kid, Mad City. What a fucking album. That's one of my all-time favorites. So shout out Compton.
Every time I'm in the street, I hear
yeah. Men down. So I just want to say that this movie was in my best movie sound clip soundboard voice ever. This was a certified hood classic.
Yes, I agree. Right up in the same vein of a lot of the hood classics we've watched and yet to watch. It feels like right in that genre, gritty hood, just an all-timer.
Well, don't worry, Nick. It ain't nothing but a Compton thing. And now it's going to be something of an awards thing, Nick. We're going to jump into our mini pops. This is our awards for the evening. We need to decipher what was the best, what was the worst. We're going to start out with our very first category we do every time, which is going to be best weapon. Nick, I suspect that our best weapon is going to be a firearm because we're not dealing with sci-fi. It's not fantasy. Nick, on the count of 3, reveal to the crowd, reveal to me the best weapon of Menace to Society. 1, 2, 3. Show me. Okay, Nick, you're saying the best weapon is O-Dog's 9mm or the streets.
Streets do be dangerous in chains. I see you have the burger joint shotgun.
Dude, the shotty blasted that guy away.
True. Harold's revenge scene.
So my thought,
definitely.
Yeah, my thought is, do we have a pistol in the end of the year gauntlet up to this point? We don't have a shotgun. And that was vicious. And Too Short gave him the shotgun.
Yeah, that does add a lot to it. So
right? Yeah. A Nina on your hip or just the streets in general, that will absolutely do it. We're going to go with the burger joint shotgun.
I would like it to be called Too Short Shotty, please.
The Too Short Shotty. I like it.
All right, James. You can't have a best weapon without a best fighter. So we're going to go ahead next and throw our nominations up for our best fighter of Menace to Society. On the count of 3, show me what you got. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, Nick, we both landed on O-Dog. That guy is insane. I think he did the most murdering, right?
Absolutely. I said it at the top of this. I had friends. You could take it back to high school, college. I had friends. I had one friend, James. You know him, big football player, muscular, scary guy. I had another friend named Peter who was a little more lanky, but when he had his flip switched, he turned when a guy sees white, he just goes insane. That's the scariest motherfucker on the planet. And so O-Dog has that. We talked about it during the casting. I think the casting of a guy who could just straight up flip his switch, even if he's smaller, and go into murder mode is, my goodness, it's just something different.
When there's a cold-blooded murderer on the loose who's a crazy person, we got to have a good person in this movie. So I would like to know who you thought the most valuable character was.
I'd be shocked if we didn't have the same guy.
You might be shocked because we're going to reveal on 3 our NBC 1, 2, 3 reveal. Okay, see, I thought you were going to go with Sharif, but I think Mr. Butler is our MVC because he's the one who gets Caine's ass in gear. He starts, because Caine has this voiceover of, my grandpa's always pushing religion on me, but he's just forcing his own will. And Mr. Butler is the only one who I felt like gave a damn. And he's just telling me, I don't care what you do. I just care that you're alive. So do what you got to do to survive. And yes, I just busted a rhyme. So Nick, that's my vote. Enlighten me on Sharif, who is also that was like a instantaneous idea for me. But after thinking about it, I did like Mr. Butler.
Yeah, I think Sharif's importance really comes from his redemption story, right? Him trying to bring his redemption story. And now that I think about it, maybe his redemption story was a little more pushy. Like we said about Mr. Butler, who can really speak to the soul of somebody and not have that little, like, I'm trying to impose my views upon you. But I think Sharif's redemption story coupled with his death at the end is what really drove home the message that the Hughes brothers were trying to give us, which was you could be redeemed, you could be irredeemable, you could be on the fence, but eventually the streets catch up to you. Rules. Yeah, and so that's why I thought his character was valuable, not necessarily his acting or who he was as a person, but what he represented from throughout the movie, and then especially with the end death, really signifying to the audience that really no one is safe, even the redeemed.
Shout out Mr. Butler. You get an honorable mention. But yeah, I'll agree with that sentiment. We'll go with Sharif for our MVC.
All right, James, you can't have a best character without a worst character. We call our worst character on this podcast the biggest piece of shit in the movie. So he may not be the worst character, but in our hearts, he represents the worst of humanity. Just a real big problem, a real big piece of shit, a big old stinky pile of dookie in this movie. James, on the count of 3, I need you to give me the biggest piece of shit in this film. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay. So we landed on, wait, you said O-Dog or Purnell?
Well, when you brought up the whole pedophilia thing, I think that just really, that gives you an automatic nomination into the piece of shit character. It out.
They really sweep that underneath the rug. But us doing math with a calculator, we're like, hold on. Are you a certified pedophile?
I'd be remiss if I didn't give him an honorable mention for piece of shit. Because if he is a pedophile, you know how we feel this podcast. You get an automatic nomination into the piece of shit category. But James, it is O-Dog. Tell me why you got him.
Well, I'm surprised we had the same one because we were kind of talking down Chauncey at the end there, especially with that scene that wasn't included in the movie. But he is kind of ancillary, like you said. O-Dog is an issue. And this is not like he's the worst character for this movie. He's a great character for the movie. But objectively looking at people's actions, he is the worst person here. He is a cold-blooded murderer. He openly admits, like, I don't care who I kill, when I kill. I'm going to go kill. I'm going to be an issue. I'm going to be a problem. I'm going to break the law. And I'm only 16 or 17.
Yeah, from the first scene, the opening scene, the killing the Korean store owner was bad.
That was pretty much a lock for me in the beginning.
The taking the wife, really.
That was bad. And the fact that he brings the tape around and he says, this shit's funny to me. I was like, this guy's a psychopath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that psychopathic tendency that really gets me. It's
Chauncey was just a pervy carjacker who shit talked that little white guy. O-Dog is sociopath.
The more I think about it, O-Dog might be irredeemable, but he's not irredeemable because of the streets. The streets are his excuse to be the bad person that he is.
Well, what a great set of awards we had going here. Let's wrap up the awards and our talking points with our sarcastic selling points so we can get into that final review. I'm going to go first with my sarcastic selling point. It is simply this. This is Dead Boys in the Hood.
Oh, I like that. I said if Nino Brown listened to his conscience, but then he was also jonesing for the juice.
Final review. Fight.
Final review time. Here we go. It's time to look at what the other guys thought about this movie, and then we'll get into what we think. We're going to start out with the usual suspects of Rotten Tomatoes. The critics, 84% of the critics thought that this was a good movie.
Pretty good for a movie of this caliber. Well, the people thought it was even better. They gave it a 93%.
Ooh, matching the 1993 aesthetic. I like it. Let's move over to Metacritic and womp womp. Just a tad, because the Metacritic critics are going to give this a 76. Going to translate to a 7.6 on the popcorn scale.
I'll tell you what, they were simpatico with the audience, who was a lot less friendly than Rotten Tomatoes, because they also gave it a 7.6.
Weird indeed. And now for our drive-by. Don't care if I die. That's a lie. Insurance scam guy score brought to you by I don't give a fuck what I said. From IMDb, a 7.5. Oh my gosh. Nick, are we smoking the same crack?
We are just menaces.
Anybody want a hamburger? Because I'm going to hit you with my laughable logline, my popcorn points, and my final thoughts on the movie Menace to Society. Nick, my laughable logline is: two friends from South Central have zero desire to make it out of the hood. And the popcorn points, they're going to go up from my pre-pops. They are going up. They're going to elevate slightly to a 7.8 for me. This is my final score where I land on this movie. I was enamored with this movie from front to back. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Definitely passed the phone test. This is my kind of movie. I like inner city stories. I like gang stories. And the amount of action to pondering on themes I thought was well balanced. You know, Hughes brothers are coming in. They're very green. They're newcomers to the scene. So I can see some of their flaws and whatnot. But I think they did a lot of good stuff. They did a lot of stuff well. And the cinematography pops out to me because I thought there was a lot of cool one-ers in this. There was a lot of cool rotating shots, a lot of handhelds going through houses. And when in that intro grad party scene, we start out on the street with Harold and Caine, and we just handheld our way through the house, and we're dapping people up, and then it goes all the way to the backyard, and we go to the shack, and then we meet all the characters. The lighting in that scene, there's a lot of reds and purples, and it matches that flashback scene of Samuel Jackson when he executes a guy in cold blood. And then when Caine is getting interviewed by Bill Duke, there's that same kind of red lighting. I was like, okay, this is all, they're trying to thematically say something here. They do have attention to this detail, which I appreciate. But I did learn that some of their cinematic stuff was like just because they didn't have time to set up a dolly or set up a Steadicam. So they're like, what they thought was a stylistic choice was just kind of like that movie sacrifice on the fly. Hey, we don't have time, so we're going to do this to keep the project going. And they thought they were going to get shit canned on day 3. They thought this was like a terrible movie they were making, and they couldn't be any more wrong, because this was a very captivating movie. I thought the performance by Lorenz Tate specifically was the highlight. I thought he was outstanding in this one. And I just appreciate the the authenticity, the attention to detail when it comes to telling a story from that part of the world, from that part of Los Angeles. I thought it was important to bring up, and I do like the themes they brought up, and I like that it was something to kind of chew on and think about. And maybe after this conversation, I'll get a clearer idea of what the message was. Or like we discussed, maybe there's not a message and it's just a piece of art that we are forced to sit down and watch and have emotions and have reactions and be frustrated and be sad and be happy for some of these characters. So I thought this movie was very cool. It was very watchable. There wasn't a lot of tropes. It was a lot of shock value and wake up calls for what real life is actually like. And this is a great movie. I would recommend it. That's all I got. Keep it short and sweet. I liked it. Nick, what do you got?
Echo all the sentiments. And I'm also going to try and keep it somewhat short and sweet. So my laughable logline is: a hood rat does hood rat things and becomes just another rat in a cage, chasing the cheese that is the streets. I gave this an 8.3 pre-pop. I'm going to bring it down a little bit, but I'm going to end up at an 8.1 here on the scale for me. I think this still remains in that 8 category. A lot of stuff we talked about here in the plot talk, which is, and you brought it up, I love the way they paced this movie, the way they really highlighted Caine's struggle, right? You had the shock value of the opening scene. Then you had the flashbacks to this is Caine's upbringing, and then you have his journey throughout. There were a few things that brought it down, right? We talked about it. These are young actors. There were a few things where, was that accidental? Was that actually meant to be? I like to think a lot of it was meant to be. The whole Caine deciding to move to Atlanta seemed a little quick. Seemed like a big moment that could have used a little more love, but it is what it is. But all things said and done, very solid film, very solid themes. We talk in this podcast about sticking to themes, having a message, staying on message, staying in the world you've created. And they created a movie or a world, off the bat, which is unfair and unjust and wild in the streets. And they finish it that way. And props to New Line Cinema for not juicing them and saying, that's a sad ending. We want to do something different, right? They kept it with something that was true to their hearts. I had a little bit of a blessing being able to watch the director's cut accidentally, seeing what they were going for, right? It added a little more depth, knowing what didn't get into theatrical and knowing that, they really did care about this message. And anyone who knows me knows I'm a sucker for a little bit of a dark ending to something. A lot of the movies I love are, there's a lesson learned, but there's no happy ending. And so I feel like that was this ending was right into my veins. It's what we wanted from Juice. It's what we've wanted from a lot of movies where, hey man, maybe there's not a happy ending. Maybe there is just despair and a lesson to learn and a cautionary tale for the people, for the main characters, because there's no heroes here, right? Caine's not a hero. He's not a good guy. O-Dog's definitely not. Ronnie's our best person, and even she is she's still caught up in this world, right? And even Sharif doesn't get out alive. And so very good, a thinker, an emotional pull to the movie. And like you said with the phone test, right? It's kind of become our new go-to barometer on this podcast of, did I ever feel bored enough to pull out my phone and go, I can't wait for this to end? Absolutely not. If anything, we wanted a little more. We wanted a little more development. We wanted a little more background. We wanted a little more depth to some of these scenes. So it's an 8.1 from me. It puts it a little bit below Juice, because I think we decided Juice did a lot of the things we're talking about here, started fleshing those characters out.
Juice is it's very character driven, and that's where the movie shines.
Yeah, but 8.1 all day long. Echo your sentiment. See it. It's great. Definitely worth a watch and a rewatch and a rewatch. Great movie. Good job, Hughes Brothers.
Hate to bring up Bullet again because it just doesn't deserve to be in the same sentence as Menace to Society, but I think Menace to Society did what Bullet couldn't, because a big complaint we had with Bullet
in a lot of ways,
like shit's happening. It's just like a bunch of random shit and it goes nowhere. And you can make the same argument for this movie. We get a lot of just pockets of scenes of just like, oh, dog guns down a crackhead, or we have this traffic stop, or this happens, or like have a police interrogation. There's a lot of just like random, you can call them random scenes happening. We're getting glimpses, or like we're kind of living through Caine's POV because he does narrate this movie. Maybe he's narrating it from the grave. And these are all glimpses of his life being flashed in front of his eyes when he goes out. So they do a good job of not making it feel so disjointed. It does make it seem like it's like a lot of like significant moments in people's lives that have to contribute to the overarching theme of like, do you value life or do you value death? You're pointing at me like I said something right there.
Let him cook, baby. Let him cook.
Finally, I said something good.
Let him cook.
It's a well done movie, well done enough for us, because this is going to land at a 7.95. Nick, this is a top tier microwave popcorn, breaching almost at the movie popcorn shared bag status. You're sharing a bag with your buddy.
That's a great place for it,
because we've had some burnt kernels and some cremated corn, and you don't want to be down there.
Whatever you do not eat the burnt corn.
Don't eat it. And Nick, that is going to do it for Menace II Society. What a ride. I'm happy we both watched this for the first time and discussed it together. And I'm glad we liked it. I feel like we've gotten a lot of duds on this podcast, which is kind of our mission. But once in a while, we like some thinkers. We like some dark endings. And we like just good movies. And I think it's safe to say that Menace II Society is a good movie. So we want to thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. Please remember to follow us. We are at Just Play It Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. We are at Just Play It Pod on that Twitter fingers X. Gonna give it to you, popping off. You're going to want to join us next time. Speaking of them streets, I think we're going to be watching a movie that has to do with someone's illegal occupation, that has to do with cars. Nick?
I feel like you could just go ahead and try and compete on the public roads, really, in this movie.
It's going to be a good one. So please join us next time. For right now, we are heading gone. And remember, if you go into that liquor store and you're just trying to get yourself a brewski, just hurry up and buy. Otherwise, you're going to find some trouble. Might be some big trouble in little Koreatown. Or like carjacking the crack. Oh, we didn't even mention the suck your dick cheeseburger guy.
Oh my God. Dude, what about